Hi everyone, Gary Coleshill here, and yes, indeed, you are in the right place. You're in the right place if you're looking for more information on how to get student aid for college. Anyway, so we're very fortunate to have with us today Mr. Scott Rulon from Rulon Financial, who is a bit of an expert on this. So he's got some great stuff to tell you, some good ideas how you can basically not go broke paying for college. How about that? So, without without much further delay, I'd like to introduce Scott to you. Scott, you have the floor. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Gary. I'm so happy to be with you on this Friday afternoon. I know your time is valuable, but I also know you don't want to pay a full retail price for college. Yeah, retail prices for college are increasing, as I see it, at about 12% a year. So I think with all the loans that are available today, the colleges have certainly taken advantage of that and continue to raise their tuition and their room and board prices. So that's not an exciting prospect for many parents or students, but it is something that we all have to face each and every year. So I want everybody to grab a pencil and a piece of paper. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to go do that. And I'm going to tell you the most important formula that you must write down um, when it comes to college aid. So a couple more seconds here. All right. So now that you've got your pen or pencil and a piece of paper handy, let's talk about the most important funding formula in college. So number one, you will get no aid, whether it's merit-based or need-based, unless you fill out a FAFSA application. That stands for the free application for federal student aid. So no matter what you do, whether you're going to a junior college, you're going to a community college, you're going to a college, or you're going to university, you have to have one of these on file before they will give you any aid. And now, without further ado, here is the formula. It's COA, stands for cost of attendance, less EFC, expected family contribution, also today known as SAI. They changed the name of it, but not the numbers. Leaves you with, you subtract one for the other, and that leaves you with family need. And so the FAFSA application, what it actually does is it helps you figure out what your EFC really is. And that is really important because that is the part that you as parents or you as students or you as guardians or conservators or whatever you are, that's the part of the bill you definitely have to pick up. And then we have another part down there at the bottom, and it's called family need. And so different colleges have different philosophies when it comes down to this thing called family need. So some colleges will provide a very high amount of family need, and some colleges and universities will provide almost no family need. And so what I found 9 times out of 10, many of the state colleges and state schools, the non-private ones, um, they they don't provide much in the way of free aid for the family need component. Free aid is really more that type of aid that's more of a grant or a scholarship, and you don't have to take out a loan. So who wants to take out a loan when it comes to college? I don't think that's too exciting for many of you. So since we're talking about loans, let's just go ahead and start right there. So the page I'm on, in case most of you didn't catch it, it's studentaid.com, or actually not .com, it's studentaid.gov. And this is the place where you actually fill out the FAFSA application. The FAFSA application has somewhere around 129 questions. There are questions both for parents and there are questions for students. And so I would suggest when you do a FAFSA application, both the student and the parent or guardian should get together and fill this out together. When you're doing this, you should have copies of your W-2. In fact, let me just read you out the list of what you're going to need as you put this together. I think this will be really helpful. You need your most recently filed W-2, 1099, or other records of earned income for the student and the parents. You need your most recently filed federal income tax records for students and parents. You need records of untaxed income such as welfare, Social Security, AFDC or ADC, veterans benefits for students and parents. You'll need current bank statements. You'll need your current mortgage information, including the original purchase price for your home, its current market value, the amount you owe on it, and the amount of monthly payments and yearly total taxes paid. You'll need, if you are a business owner, you'll need your business and farm records. And if you hold securities like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and other investments, including retirement accounts, you should have those in front of you as well. And if you have previously filed a copy of a FAFSA for any of your children or for yourself, you should have those with you as you fill this out. And so generally, some of the other information that we require, and you'll need as you fill out the FAFSA, obviously, the father's name, the mother's name, the children's names and their birthdays. As far as student information, we will certainly need the student's name, the student's high school, their grade point average, their graduation year, their GPA, in other words, their grades, their ACT score, or their SAT score. And it's also helpful to know the expected college major. And what I would do also, and I think this is pretty important, is make a list of the colleges and university your student is interested in attending. I generally tell my clients to make a list of at least 10. Put like 2 pie in the sky schools that you don't know if you'll get in or not. The next 6, I would put down ones you have a pretty good chance of getting in, and maybe for the last 2 or 3, I would have you put down ones that you know your student will get in for sure. Those are very helpful. And so when you are applying for college, one of the most important parts of any college you're going to get to need to know is the financial aid office. This is the office that controls most of the university's money when it comes to tuition. They control the loans, and things of that, and many of the financial things of that nature when it comes to fees and, let's just say, other accessories. So I would tell you, first time you fill out a FAFSA form, I would allow probably 1 to 2 hours. And so I think it's really important also when you're filling out a FAFSA form, and this is a big secret, read the directions. Don't think that you understand what they're asking if you don't know what they're asking. So you may assume it's one thing, but they may assume something else. And so they will ask you sometimes, they can ask you the value of a business, and they'll just put value of a business. But what they don't tell you there, but they do have in the directions, When they're really looking for business value, they're looking for businesses that has more than 100 employees. So if your business does not have more than 100 employees, please don't put that down. That will just mess up your EFC score altogether. The other thing that you do not want to put down in the asset category is your 401k plan or your IRA plan. Don't ever put those assets amounts in there. I have had clients do that, and it has cost them between $8,000 and $10,000 in tuition for the mistake that they've made. Now, you certainly do have the ability to amend your FAFSA form, but please be advised, if you do go in and amend that form, you're certainly going to have to explain it to the college aid office. They want to know why you made a change. And so there are interesting questions that comes up about whose income are we looking at anyway? And so I know today there are lots of divorced families, and there are lots of families where mom and dad still married but live in separate households. So Gary, are you on?
I'm here, but I was muted.
All right.
Yes,
So
Scott.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh
So
no.
if we have a mother and father and they live in separate households, whose financial information do you think we put down on the FAFSA form?
The one who looks after the kids, I would think. Is that custodial?
Yeah, that 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the custodial parent. So let's get a little trickier with this. So what happens if mom and dad are still married, especially on the tax return, and they live in separate households? In that case, which
Right.
parent do you think we pick?
If they live in separate households, where are the
Yes.
where are the children?
Well,
Again,
it's still the
wouldn't
same rule. They live with
yeah,
the custodial parent.
yeah. So that's again, custodial parent would be the one, yeah,
Yeah,
where the kids are, I would think.
and so I've had some colleges actually question that because they only put down the income of one parent, but they didn't put down the other, especially if they're still married. It's really important to prove that the non-custodial parent lives in another household. So it wouldn't be the first time we've actually had to provide a rental or a lease contract to the financial aid office to show that mom and dad lived in different households. Um,
Okay.
I think today you can't just say it's mom or it's dad because we have all sorts of different combinations. I mean, who hasn't seen the TV series Modern Family? Families can be convoluted all kinds of different ways. So
Right.
so you have to be careful with that. I mean, and you have some parents that are older and some parents that are younger. So when you're filling out the FAFSA form, it's really important to put um, mom and dad's age, because sometimes if you have an older parent, that will lower your expected family contribution for college. In fact, not more than 2 years ago, I actually had a family, had teenage daughters, but he was 72
Right.
when his kids were going to college. So he was a bit older than his wife. So we put his age down and her name age down, but because of the parents' age, they actually got a little break. Sometimes there's another little break actually has to do with, what if you have more than one child in college? What do you think, Gary, if you have more than one child in college, what do you think happens to the EFC score?
I don't know. I would have think it would be lower is better, right?
Yeah,
Lower score. Yeah, I would think it goes down.
yeah. In fact, it does go down. So if you have more than one child in, the first 4 years of college, they will actually split your EFC number by the number of children in college.
Oh, okay.
And so I have had, in fact, that one father I just talked about that was 72, um, he had fraternal twin daughters.
Oh, well,
So
okay.
yeah,
It
they
gets
were,
expensive if you've got several children in college. Yeah.
it does. So one of the things we had to know is to make sure once the FAFSA was done for each of his daughters, that it was on the EFC was half on each one of them. And in fact, Gary, would you believe it or not, I had a father that had quadruplets.
Wow. That's
And
that's
and so
that's a handful.
sorry, my phone was just a second. So they had to, so we had to make sure that theirs was in fourths
Right.
for theirs. In fact, I kind of found out over time, I became a little bit of a specialist with people that had multiple children in college. So
Right.
you have to be very careful with something like that because you don't want the parents to be charged for too much.
Right. No, they need every they need every break they can get, I think. They're putting poor kids through college. Wow.
Yeah, and so when it comes to college and when we fill out our FAFSA, generally today, if your income, and it may have been indexed a little bit since I've looked, but if your income was less than $60,000, you would qualify for something called a Pell Grant. When I looked at the Pell Grant a couple weeks ago, the Pell Grant has actually risen to it was like $7,295. Um,
It's pretty nice. It's
that
good.
is. And so, by the way, that grant does not come to the student. It goes, it goes directly to the college aid office. And they're the one that gets it. So you get half of that amount the first time. Just a second. I can't talk right now. Thanks. Sorry about that. I didn't put my phone to mute. That's my fault. So happens.
You'll get you thrown out the webinar for doing that.
Uh-oh, that'd be terrible. So we were talking about Pell Grants, and so what they would do is they would split that Pell Grant into two pieces. So part would come the first semester and part would come the second semester. So that money never directly goes to the student. Um, so that's obviously a grant is a great thing because a grant is free money, and free money is always the best because you don't have to pay that back. There are certain other grants, like if you're going to school to be a teacher, you can work some of that off. If you go to work in a low income district, or you work in a small town that has a hard time getting teachers, sometimes there'll be some loan forgiveness there. The other place you can go sometimes at college to get some money is called the bursar's office. So the bursar is the person that's in charge of giving scholarships that people have given money for. Sometimes the current class does not fulfill exactly all of the qualifications for that scholarship, but the bursar needs to give it out. Sometimes they'll give it out to somebody that's close. So always good idea to go visit the bursar's office to see if they have any extra money. So it's not going to happen for you all the time, but I think when it comes to college aid, everybody, you're going to want to turn over all the rocks. Another place that I have a lot of people go when it comes to scholarships is actually fastweb.com. So every one of you should write that down, fastweb.com. It is absolutely a free site when it comes to applying for different types of college scholarships. So some scholarships are worth $500. There's some like the National Space Foundation scholarship that's like $10,000. But there's a lot of scholarships out there. And so I would really suggest that your student take some time and sign up at fastweb.com. It'll take them, I would guess, somewhere in the range of 30 to 45 minutes. And based on your answers to questions within the FastWeb site, FastWeb will send you possible scholarships for all of those. And I will tell you some of these are luck of the draw, but other ones do require you to write an essay. And so I would actually probably have about 5 or 6 different essays written for college. And so one place you can look up different essay topics is there is a place called the Common App. The Common App is a place you can go out and fill out your college registration just once and send it to multiple colleges. But I know they have 4 or 5 different essay topics. And so I would suggest that your student write out all those essay topics. So one of those that happened in the past, and Gary will appreciate this because he's originally from the UK, it's using modern technology to show how it would help out a historical figure. And this young lady suggested that if Henry VIII had had one of the dating apps, that he wouldn't have had so many wives.
That's too funny. Yeah.
It was absolutely, it was a great essay. And I will tell you that this young lady actually went on to win multiple scholarships. In fact, she covered her entire tuition at Boston University for $72,000 a year for 4 years in a row. So she did quite well for herself. I understand that late last year she was actually accepted into medical school, and she's one of the many students that over time have sent me a picture standing on the graduation steps with their mortarboard and their gown on, and it just says, "Thank you, Scott."
That's nice. Nice that
Yeah.
you get appreciation for that.
Yeah, so it's always wonderful when that happens, when you see that they really appreciate the work that you've done for them. And yes, sometimes we do get paid for the work we do, but what I can tell you is the payback for hiring somebody like this is usually somewhere around a factor of 7 to 10. That we get you that many times what you actually paid us. So don't forget that. One of the things that you should note about the time that your student reaches that junior in college, you'll start getting all of these pieces of paper in the mail. Some of them will ask for fees to help search for scholarship for you. You don't have to do that because you've got FastWeb. If they ask for a credit card or bank account is needed, you should run away from that one as well, because I can guarantee you that that's a scam. Some of them will guarantee you scholarships. They'll say for $39.95, we can guarantee your child X number of dollars. That's always a scam. Some of those online things will sell no work involved, but you can't avoid putting in time to fill out a scholarship application. I would think of that, Gary, as like a second job. So I would fill out a couple a day, and especially the more expensive the school is, the more applications I would fill out. So I think it's like a numbers game. I would fill somewhere out between 50 and 100 of these, and maybe you'll get a few. And so I've coached and met with more than one person who got enough of these $500 or $1,000 scholarships to pay for their entire college tuition.
Well, if you think of it as income, it's very highly paid, isn't it?
No, it is very highly
Yeah.
paid. So there's a lot of bang for the buck. Legitimate sponsors should give you a name and address, and it shouldn't be a PO box. It should be a valid email address and a valid phone number. If they don't give you those, it's probably a scam. They're unsolicited scholarships. If you receive an award for which you never applied, be alert. It's most likely a scam. Might be like those old Nigerian letters. If you give us so much money, we will process this for you. I can guarantee you that's a scam. Pressure tactics. Some of them will try to bend your arm to get you to do something. 9 times out of 10, that just doesn't work if they're asking for money up front. So certainly it's okay to pay a college coach to help you work through the process. That's fine. But if they want a minimal amount of money and they can guarantee something, it almost never works. Claims of exclusive scholarships. So most sponsors do not make their scholarships available through only one site. They put them on multiple sites. So why not just go to a free site like FastWeb? So some sponsors go out of their way to sound official. So they'll say they're part of the National Association this, or the Federal Scholarship Association, or the Education Foundation, and they will put a often fake official looking seal on the documents. So if you question legitimacy of a scholarship, check them out. That's really important. Another great place to look for financial aid, believe it or not, is Facebook. There are some nice Facebook groups set up among parents telling you different places to look for aid. And the other one, what if your questions aren't answered directly? We used to, at my work, we had a person we nicknamed him Dazzling Dan, the Dancing Man, because he would never answer a question straight. If you find Dazzling Dan, the Dancing Man, and some of the people that you're talking to, I just wouldn't bother to do it at all with that particular place. And so we'll leave you off here. We'll talk a little bit about college loans. So when it comes to college loans, most people are eligible for something called the Stafford loan. The Stafford loan is that there's a subsidized and an unsubsidized version of that. The first year you're eligible for $5,500. The second year, $6,500. Your junior and senior year, $7,500. And if you have one of those kids that's a bit of a slow starter and have to go to college for a fifth year, yes, another $7,500 is available there. But I think you can save a lot of money, Gary, by just going to school for 4 years. So when you go to school, while social aspect is important, keep your eye on the prize. Get all your work done in 4 years. I mean, there's a lot of high schools today that offer dual enrollment. So you could go to dual enrollment and pick up some hours there. But in this case, with the Stafford loan, you have to start paying it back after 6 months. And so in the subsidized version, that means the government pays the interest while you're in school. But 6 months later, the interest does start accruing on the account again. The unsubsidized version is where the government doesn't pay any of the interest. And so it is accruing while you're in school. But by the time you graduate, you have to start paying the principal and interest. There's one other type of loan, which is called a Parent Plus loan. And on Parent Plus loan, unlike the Stafford loans, the parents have to co-sign on the application. And Parent Plus loans require payment. Payment starts immediately as soon as you've taken the loan. So it could be that every semester you have to take out a new loan. I've seen more than one parent having to pay greater than $4,000 a month for college. Don't get yourself into that situation. Make sure your son or daughter signs up for places like FastWeb. Make sure they check out scholarships from some of the insurance companies who offer them. Who else? Elks offers a big scholarship. I think Kiwanis does. Rotary does. So don't leave any stone unturned. So Gary, I see that we're getting close to the end of the hour here. So I will cut my presentation right there. When we do this next time, we'll talk about something a little different when it comes to college. But I always like people to ask questions. And so, Gary, sometimes people are a little shy about asking the first question. So guess
They
who
can
I am
be.
going to delegate to do that?
Oh, don't tell me you're going to pick on me again.
Of course.
Thank you very much. I do have one question actually, because I genuinely don't know the answer to this one. When you get a Pell Grant, it's basically free money. You don't have to pay it back. But
Yes.
what if the student doesn't complete the course? Do they have to pay it back then? They have to complete everything to in order to keep the money, or do they have to give something back as a penalty if they don't complete whatever course they're taking?
Well, that is an excellent question, which I don't fully know the answer to. But I can tell you when Pell Grants are paid, they're paid directly to the university or college.
Okay.
So the
It's not a
student,
bad idea because students tend to live it up a
yeah,
bit sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, in fact,
As we
those
know.
college loans, those aren't paid to the student either.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're
All
paid
right.
directly to the college or the university. So the student never has a chance to practice malfeasance with the money they've
They
received.
need to, they won't be able to spend too much money on partying. Yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely. So even when it comes to that, so with the merit-based scholarships, uh, a lot of those actually do have a grade point requirement. If you don't keep
Right.
up a certain grade average, you're going to lose your scholarship.
Okay.
So
So
you don't ever want to do that.
no, no, absolutely not. Well, I think it makes sense that if you're going to go to college, I know there's this kind of image of all the students partying all the time. I don't think it's necessarily true, but if you are going to take the time and the expense to go to college, make the most of it. I mean, just don't, this is another time for partying maybe in your life, but that's not really it. You want to knuckle down, get the course finished as soon as you can. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I noticed even with deadlines on things, you don't get the weekend anymore.
right,
They have certain deadlines, and I noticed this, from my son's college a couple of years ago. If they had to turn in an English paper, it was literally due at midnight on some
right,
days. And so
yeah,
that doesn't mean Saturday morning, that means Friday midnight.
right.
You have to have that in.
Yeah, you've got to be
So,
disciplined. There's no doubt. I was thinking about something actually, and this, you might disagree with this, but I mean, there are kind of immediate ways to not pay out as money to college, and they're pretty obvious. One is that if you can go to a college in state, and with a and trying maybe have one so the student can come home and live at home still, and save a lot of money on housing. And the other thing is that if it suits your needs and it doesn't suit everybody, check out the community colleges. I mean, they're very reasonable. Some of them are very, very good. I mean, we've got some very good ones in Arizona, and you can still get a degree from them. It depends what your needs are, but
no, and
those two options alone would save you a lot of money.
yeah, because I think the junior and community college is only about, maybe they're a little bit more there. The last time I looked, they're about $4,000 a year versus like $30,000 a year.
Well, that's a big difference, right? I mean, it's yeah, so you won't get as much in debt by doing that. But it depends what your goals are. Obviously, some people have to go to certain, universities and colleges because of their career goals, for example.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be like a car mechanic, or you're going to be a policeman, or you go into fire science, you can get a lot of your classes done at the community college level for much cheaper.
Oh, yeah, and I
Um,
think you have to weigh up basically, and I don't think people do this enough. Is that what career are you pursuing, and if you do that, can you ever pay this stuff back? I mean, if you, work in I don't know, say you work in the fast food industry, nothing wrong with that, but you wouldn't want to go to college and get 100 grand's worth of loans and earn, I don't know, whatever, 40 grand a year. It's going to take you a long time to pay it back if you ever can. So I mean, but if you're going to be a doctor or something, you can recoup that cost. I mean, not immediately, obviously, but eventually. So it depends what career you're going for.
No,
It's
absolutely.
yeah,
Some of the professional degrees, like accounting, architecture, engineering, pre-law,
yeah,
um, you
they're
know,
highly paid jobs. Yeah,
yeah, they're going to pay you enough money to pay things back. But
right.
if you're doing all this work, and so please don't hear me that I'm saying there's anything wrong with being a social worker. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but if
Not
you
at
do
all.
go to college and a lot of social work just requires a lot of psychology, and sometimes you have to get a master's degree there, you're not looking at a big paycheck when you get out of social work. That's just not the way that it works. So I would tell you just be careful. I'm not complaining that it's a bad profession. I'm just saying that you're not going to get paid a lot for doing it. And
Right.
it's going to be much harder to pay back your college loans. And most college loans are paid back over a period of 10 years.
Yeah. I
So
mean, how much if you had $100,000 dollar student loan? I mean, what would be the normal kind of rate of paying it back? I mean, it would take you how many years do you think it would take?
well, you're
Quite
only
quite a
given
long time, I would think.
yeah, you're only given 10 years to pay it back,
Oh,
actually.
oh, you are? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and I can tell you that on $100,000 worth of loan, you're looking at payments of probably at $1,200 a month.
So that's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so the payments from just if you just got the Stafford loan, I think those work out to be like $360 a month for 10 years.
Okay.
And so all I did, because the maximum Stafford loan's somewhere around 27, 28,000, I just multiplied that number times four, which gets us close to that $100,000. So yeah, that literally means somewhere around $1,200, $1,300 a month you're going to be paying back.
Right. And of course, these are just our opinions. We're not knocking
Yeah.
any industry or courses. I mean, obviously, you do what you need to do and what you want to do. But yeah, I
Right.
think it's a consideration to weigh up, how much you're going to be paying out and how much you expect to get back, because you don't want to be particularly be cash poor all your life paying back these loans. I mean, they're very high, and there's no way out of them, is there? Really? I mean, you can't. Um,
You
once
can't bankrupt
you can't
yourself
bankrupt, yeah,
a
right,
student loan. Student
right,
loans, once you take them on, they're forever.
yeah.
There's only very special circumstances. And I mean like one out of 10,000 circumstances
That's
that can
pretty
actually
special.
get you out of them. So let's say you went to medical school, accrued a huge debt. Um, but you decide to go work in a less economic advantage community for a certain number of years, they will pay off your medical school.
Yeah,
That's an example, but that's only for very I've only really seen that with teachers and people in the medical profession. I'm sure there's other ones as well. For those of you that have parents in the military, while one of your parents is still in the military, they can actually use their GI benefits to actually pay for your college. But once they are out of the military, they can't use those GI benefits for you anymore.
right. Was there such a? I remember a couple of years ago. I don't know if this still applies. That I might be wrong with this, so correct me if I am. But Starbucks were doing for people that work for Starbucks were doing a special thing where they paid towards college ASU, or there was something. What was that? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think they do that. So I can tell you that there is actually a corporate fringe benefit. Last time I looked at it is those companies were allowed to pay up to $5,000 tax free
Okay.
into your education plans. And so, yeah, Starbucks has always been one of the more of the leaders when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's quite
I've certainly
outstanding,
seen
actually.
that.
Yeah.
I know at the company that my son works for, which is Intel. So to move up at Intel, sometimes you need an extra degree, and Intel will actually pay for your master's and doctorate degree.
You got
I
got to love
think,
that.
yeah, full board.
Yeah, absolutely. So
For
so
you to go
Jim,
do that because that helps the company. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some
Well,
strings
it's
attached to
smart
that.
thinking. Yeah, it's smart thinking.
Yeah,
So basically, just weigh up your options and choose carefully. And
absolutely.
if you need any help at all, we'll be happy to give you some tips and direction. I did put up on the screen actually both of our contact numbers and email addresses. So if anybody has any questions, we're going to wrap up in about 2 minutes. Type them in now. And if you can't think of any questions now, call us later. And there will be a very brief survey popping up in your browser at the end of the webinar. So if you could fill that out for us, we would appreciate it. Helps us to kind of, customize and tweak these talks a little bit more. So
No, absolutely. So if you need some help today, let's say your student at home is maybe in the second half of their sophomore year, beginning half of their junior year. The time to call is now. Don't don't wait till your son or daughter is in their senior year in school. There's not a lot of help we can do by that time. But if your son or daughter is a junior, sophomore, I would say even a freshman in high school and you need help, call now. So it doesn't matter what region of the country you're in. Obviously, we're sitting here in Arizona, but we've got these wonderful tools today. Um, one of which we are using today.
but we have
Um,
this thing called the internet. It's quite useful.
yep, and we'll be happy to do work with you over the internet on, usually these days we use Zoom. So we'd be happy to help you on Zoom, bring you up, get you started, and head you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Please, 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 if you need help, now is the time. There's just not a better time. The more time you have, the more time we have to plan. And today we really only touched the very edge of college planning. There is lots of things you can do to get yourself in a favorable position for that. And sometimes no aid is possible, but what we want to do is pay for college in the most tax efficient fashion. So I think many of you have never figured out how much money do you have to earn to spend $1? So think about that sometimes. And we want to help you pay for college in the most tax efficient fashion. And so when you tune in next time, we're going to talk a little bit about how can your tax return help pay for college. I'm going to let you think about that. So make sure you tune in, and next time we're on, we'll give you a couple of hints of how you can use your tax return to pay for college.
Excellent. Also, we will teach you a little bit on how to save for college if you're an earlier stage with your kids. But I think, what grade do you think you should seriously start planning out for this? Do you think 10th grade, 11th grade? I mean, when would you recommend?
I would say definitely sophomore year
Right.
in high school, your second year. That's the time to really get things going because we have a chance to put some things in place that we wouldn't get to put in place if your son or daughter is a senior. So if they are a senior or junior and you need help, please call us.
Absolutely. All right.
That's what we do. But we're saying if you have time to do some planning, talk to us like the sophomore year because there are some plans that we can set up to get you headed in the right direction. There are some great savings vehicles that do not run you afoul of the expected family contribution amount, and you can actually pull money out of tax free. Yeah, I said that, tax free, but you do have to start a little earlier to do those.
Sounds good. All right. And one last thing before we leave. With a little bit of luck, the recording would have come out. If anybody wants to get a recording of this session, just shoot me an email and put video on it in the subject line. I'll send you one over because hopefully we'll be processing this when we finish, and we can send you a copy of it. And do join us anytime you want to on another one of these. We do. Scott does change them up. They're pretty different every time we talk about different aspects of this. So by all means, we'll send you invites, all of you invites to the next one, and join us again. We'd like to see you again. So,
Absolutely. And so we even talk about different subjects. We talk about annuities, we talk about the new Corporate Transparency Act, we talk about how to maximize your Social Security, and we also talk about ideas that you give us. So if there's any financial subject or business subject you want to learn a little bit more about and you want us to speak about it, please put that on the form that's going to come up after we're done here. We would be pleased to see it, and we would love to put together a presentation so we can help you and yours. And if this presentation wasn't for you, but you have some family or friends that are in bad need of learning some of these items, please refer them to us as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate that, and have a fantastic weekend.
thanks, everyone. See you again soon.